My name is Mattias, and like you, I enjoy game music and cinematic music. So today we're gonna listen through the Hollow Knight's original soundtrack. Yeah, we're gonna talk about the music of Hollow Knight, maybe a little bit how it compares to Silksong, how it evolved from Hollow Knight into Silksong. And yeah, game mechanics. We might talk about the game update. We might talk about bosses. We'll see what happens. So we're gonna get going here with the first track, which is the Enter Hallownest. Yeah, what an introduction. What an introduction. Enter Hallownest. I believe that this was also used in a lot of like promotional material to Hollow Knight, like in trailers and stuff. Yeah, you only hear this song in the very end or in trailers. Well, I haven't reached the end in Hollow Knight, so I have no idea it's played in the end, but I have heard it in promotional material for Hollow Knight. It's everything from a sad atmosphere to a heroic atmosphere, and David Crane, thanks for the subscription. We tickle the zombie. That's how we do it here. But I feel that this is one of those themes that, if you follow my channel here, you know I love these, and I adore these type of themes where you have an adventure throughout the track. I can't wait for your improvisation of Dirtmouth. You know it, lasers. You know it. Yeah, and it already has the leitmotif for the night. Yeah, I think it's, I believe that you can hear small details, small breadcrumbs of the themes that are yet to come in the soundtrack. Yeah, we're going to continue with the next track, Dirtmouth, for you. What a beautiful theme. This is just pure beauty and pure sadness at the same time. And this is one of the themes that you're introduced to quite early in the game, or it's like the first one of the first themes that you hear in Hollow Knight. And it's of course a beautiful composition, like all the other compositions from both Hollow Knight and Silksong. It's just yeah, it's very tranquil. Exactly, it's very calm and meditative. Zen, but has this really sad character, and it suits this the color scheme of Hollow Knight, or the beginning color scheme, because it does change slightly throughout the game, obviously. But I think that was also one of the reasons why I kind of gave up Hollow Knight in the first place when I tried it the first time in 2019, because first of all, I believed it was a super hard game to play. Now that I've been playing Silksong and going back to Hollow Knight. It feels like a joy to play, because it's, I understand the game mechanics, I understand it's gonna be a hard game, but I mean, you all played Silksong, I guess. Let me know here who played Silksong, and who finished Silksong. Yeah, that was one of the things I'm gonna say here, Louis. I can imagine how hard Christopher Larkin working to make this sound so good in MIDI instruments, just amazing. Yeah, just listen at the violin, or cello maybe. Ah, okay. It's just a beautiful theme, and it sounds sounds quite real to me. But that's the thing here with sampled instruments this day. You can trick a lot of people that it's real instruments in the composition. Just listen to this piano I have going here. The thing here with this first theme, Dirtmouth, is that he's playing this. It's called the second of the scale. So if you take this as an E minor composition, or rather an E Dorian, and it's playing the second note, and that's that note. A little small dissonance there compared to playing the root note. Thanks for joining, Daniel. Yeah, it's just gorgeous, pure beauty in my opinion, and I feel it suits this grayish introduction to the game just perfectly. Chef kiss, like you all say. A little bit of hope, yeah, a little bit of hope at the end there. It's not all game over, so to speak, but just love that. And the note that you hear this second time, that's also a C sharp, and that makes it sound like a Dorian scale. It gives the theme a very sad and tragic flavor too. Can we break the record of the last stream? In the last stream we did here for Deltarune Chapter 2, we actually had 500 likes on the video. Can we beat that today, guys? Come on. Invite your best friends to the reaction show and hit that like. And subscribe if you're not subscribed yet. Next track, Crossroads, which is also early in Hollow Knight. Thank you so much, Warlock. Damn, I never noticed that. It sounds a little bit like a Diablo here when we get these toms at the end here. But overall, if you compare Dirtmouth, which has more of like a sad character, and this introduction to our sad character, Hollow Knight. But the Crossroads here has more adventure to it. It's mysterious. It's really, I think it depicts this, the typical like Metroidvania vibe, or the vibe that you want to have in a Metroidvania game. This adventure, mysterious vibe. It really invites you to adventure. That's at least how I feel when I listen to this track. And it's very, very inspirational. Okay, so what's your thoughts on the new update for Hollow Knight? I saw there were some like fixes to hitboxes for some bosses and stuff. Not to go into too much details regarding which bosses and stuff for the spoilers, but have you seen the Hollow Knight Piano Collections Great Score Adaptions book of this OST? No, I haven't. I usually just pick out melodies by ear. And speaking of that, I have an ear training application at my website, edu.morningdewmedia.com, where you can practice intervals. And that's a way to pick out tracks like I'm doing here when I listen to do these soundtrack reactions. Because sometimes I might not have heard the themes. So that's really, really good to practice ear training. To pick up melodies, pick up chords, and everything like that. But obviously I've heard Dirtmouth before. Actually, now I played it an hour ago, like I said. And it's also running here in the background. And yeah, I arrived at the first boss, finished the first boss, and acquired the first soul spell. And yeah, it really feels like the map is works very similar to how it works in Silksong. But one thing that you instantly feel if you play the Silksong and then play Hollow Knight is that the character feels a little bit more rigid. Rigid, is that a thing? Yeah. It feels a little bit more rigid in the controls. It's still a really, really great mechanics, I feel. But just to compare them to a little bit. Indeed, Kobarsos. Yeah, that's what happened to me. I'm not a god in Silksong, but it feels a lot better when you learn the game mechanics and you learn your pogos. And that's the thing here when I'm playing Hollow Knight now the second time. It feels 100 times better than the first time. It was just, I think I lost my mind at the first boss there. The big one with the club, I can't recall his name, but now the second time when I played Silksong, it feels just like a breeze. You know the exact mechanics then. But you still find these small things that differ and makes it feel less fluid compared to Silksong. Like when you need to bash these, what's it called? Like coin stashes. And you need to bash them several times. And the knight here in the beginning has a quite slow attack. There's like this cooldown. But in Silksong it's always much smoother. So it seems like they thought of every little aspect and like fixed them and smoothed them out for the Silksong game. Took the best parts of Hollow Knight. So if anyone is wondering about the perfect Metroidvania to play, personally, Silksong, any day, anytime. You're never too old to learn the piano. I think it's also one of the most simple instruments to learn. Maybe drums is easier, or percussion, because like that's the foundation to everything, to get a good feel for the rhythm. The first time I played Hollow Knight, I died basically everything 100 times. But on replay, breeze. Steep learning curve. Yeah, it's a steep learning curve in these Metroidvania games. Definitely, definitely. Let's continue here with the rest of Crossroads. And guys, spam that like button. This is what I'm talking about when it's Diablo-like. Really mysterious. So we're gonna head straight into the next track, False Night. Yeah, here's the thing, we were talking about the rhythm. Here we have a really cool, rhythmic pulsation going on, and it really adds, drives momentum to the track. And yeah, since it's a boss fight we're talking about here, it's really good to add these kind of punctuations in the music to really wake up the player. And again, speaking of the soundtrack here for Hollow Knight compared to Silksong, Silksong has real orchestra. And a real orchestra adds, of course, a ton more dynamic flavors and colors to the music. But I feel that if you listen to this theme, yeah, you can hear it's very similar velocities or transients in these cello stabs and everything. But I feel it doesn't hurt. I feel it's in a theme like this, which is a battle theme, I think it's really important that you have these very heavy transients or very hard transients that really punch you. So it feels very suitable for this theme, I feel. And it's a very great orchestration overall with all these small flares and details and runs that happen. I require the finals Tuxedo. I already did the finals, at least the trailers. I hear a lot of people call this track boring or simple. Yeah, I don't get it at all. That's... Then they can try compose the same kind of theme themselves. Good luck. I'll say good luck. Aha! Hi there, Julia. Welcome in. Good to see you. Yeah, very good here. We are listening through a Hollow Knight soundtrack. Currently listening to the False Night. So strap on those headphones. Here are the runs. A really beautiful end. Yeah, so that was the first boss track, I feel, False Night. And I don't feel it's a boring track at all. I feel it has all the important aspects that you need to get the pulse going for a boss fight. So I think it's just chef's kiss. Works perfectly. Yeah, so next up we're heading into the Greenpath. Let's take a listen. Ooh, your top 3 track. Yeah, this is just beautiful harp. And that's the hang drum, I feel. I mean, this is ear candy. This is ear candy to the max when you get these very high-pitched celeste here on top of everything. Because in the beginning we have this, we have the harp, we have some like flute, we have English horn going on, and it's just so beautiful with those pizzicato strings. But then when we get this really like high-pitched, high-frequency sounds, it's really like sizzling ear candy, just perfect. And there's also a lot of like counterpoint happening here. And counterpoint, I talk about this sometimes in these videos. If you're not familiar with like music theory at all, counterpoint is when you have 2 different melodies intertwining and like a question answer sometimes. But it's very lovely when we have these like separate melodies. It really increases the quality of the composition and makes it, yeah, it's more ear candy. Just lovely. The layering is just perfect there with the flute also at the same time. It really feels like a homage to all these cute creatures that you bump into. Just love all those small details, counterparts and melodies going in and out, and all these swaps between, when you swap the melody between different instruments. And yeah, swap which instrument carries the main melody, basically. Yeah, welcome back. So that was the Greenpath. Yeah, so let's begin here with an engagement boost since we blacked out. So comment your favorite emoji here in the chat, so we can get going here, and also leave a like on the stream. Yeah, so again, I was talking about this wonderful composition, the Greenpath. But it's so lovely to hear all the different instruments, like xylophones, there's celeste, there's harps, and everything is intertwined with different counterpoints, which, if you're not familiar with the music theory, is when you have multiple melodies intertwining, and like a question and answers sometimes in the melody. And you have the melody switching, the main melody switching between different lead instruments. And that's my personal impression of Christopher Larkin, that he's like the master of intertwining counterpoints. That's for sure. So big kudos to Christopher Larkin for providing us with these beautiful soundtracks. And I'm very glad he got the opportunity to have a real orchestra for Silksong, because it's just magical. So that's Choral Chambers, indeed, from a Silksong soundtrack. And when that track arrives in the game, it's just magical. Choral Chambers, my beloved. Oh yes. So let's continue with the next track, Hornet. Yeah, so this is one of those passages where you can realize, or where you can hear, if you have a little bit of trained ear and know what to listen for, that it's sampled violins. But it's so beautiful orchestrated that you kind of forget that, even if your ear are trained to listen, what to listen for. Is this a spoiler of Silksong? Mm-hmm. Oh no, you missed Greenpath. Yeah, but you can always go back to the VOD of. I always leave these reaction OST streams as VODs or video on demands on the channel. So if you want to go back and listen to past VODs and past live streams, make sure to do that. And that way you also support the channel. And you can always join in here as a member on the channel, because frankly, I don't earn a dime from these reaction videos, because it's obviously copyrighted music that we're playing here in the stream. So if you do want to support these OST reaction streams and support the channel, join in here and become a member on the channel. We also have a few members here online today. We have Julia, we have Glazers. So let's continue listening to Hornet, which is actually the main character in Silksong. But I guess you all knew that. Yeah, so if you're familiar with the soundtrack of Silksong, you can hear a lot of similarities in the Silksong soundtrack, and a lot of stuff that's like reused in the Silksong soundtrack from this. But as I said, this is sampled instruments, but man, it's exquisitely arranged. It's extremely good arrangement and production skills. So again, big kudos to Christopher Larkin for creating such an amazing arrangement. The Hornet track. And that's the definite end of Hornet. Yeah, what a great track. Gorgeous Hollow Knight tonight. Indeed, Steve. Steve Relievel. Good to see you. Welcome to the stream. How are you tonight? Yeah, so in the last stream I also was asking the community here. We have a lovely game music loving community going on here. And yeah, make sure you hit up on the Discord channel. There's a link here in the description to the video. And also, let me know here in the chat the name of your cats. Or cat, if you have one. Or if you don't have a cat, the name of your dog. Just post that here in the chat. We're going to continue with the next track, Reflection. Man, this is so cinematic sounding. It really sounds like a film score. An expensive film score, this track, The Reflection. And it's always beautiful to have these droning sounds if you're after a kind of introspective vibe in your tracks. Just an example there. But yeah, you can hear it in the reflection here. Just beautiful. Come. Yeah, so it's really like introspective and self-reflecting. But exquisitely composed, and as I mentioned, it really sounds like a expensive cinematic. Warlock, yeah. Welcome, good to have you back. Welcome back. Yeah, so we're gonna run into the next track, Mantis Lords. It's really cool how the harpsichord always reminds me, at least I'm instantly get reminded of like royalty and castles and fortresses and stuff like that. And it's really cool to hear the harpsichord so profound in this track and very like upfront in the mix. But it's just so beautiful. It's a perfect boss track, I feel, this one too. Ah, that's the end. Mantis Lords. Yeah, I really love and enjoy the harpsichord for that theme, the Mantis Lords. Yeah, what a cool theme. Banger for sure. Greetings from France. On Monday I'm picking up Collector's Vinyl and CD of Clair Obscure Expedition 33. Aha! Good on you. Good on you. Yeah, what a banging soundtrack. Siggy. Julia, did you see Siggy? Siggy? Yeah, that's my cat. He's always around here. He usually sits. Ah, okay, so he's there. He sits on the shelf back there. So next we're gonna listen to City of Tears. And what a beautiful thing here, adding a human voice and a real vocalist to this track. It just adds so much flavor and natural emotion to this track. It really becomes, yeah, like heaven, feels like heaven. Indeed, that's a good description, Julia. Marissa. City of Tears is like Horror Chambers of Hollow Knight. Yeah, we'll see. Actually, I haven't heard many of these tracks. As I mentioned earlier, I've just played like 1 hour, 2 hours of Hollow Knight. And I actually started replaying it here to continue on the update. Bruno, welcome. We'll tickle your zombie. Thanks for joining in. Everyone make sure to like again. Yeah. Warlock. Indeed, reminder false here. So we're like 55 people here today. At the moment, 59 people. Nice. Make sure you hit the like and also write here in the chitty chat if you're playing Hollow Knight, or if you're played Hollow Knight yourself, or maybe if you're playing a Silksong. Yeah, for some it might feel like an old game, but we talk about oldies but goldies here. And the Hollow Knight OST reaction here today is actually a wish from our beloved Lasers in the chat here. And he's a channel member. And as a channel member, you have a little bit more say over what kind of reaction videos we dive into here on the channel. So if you're interested in supporting this, as I mentioned, there's like 0 dime into this for me while doing these streams, because you can't monetize the streams, because it's copyright material, obviously. So make sure you join in here on the channel if you want to participate in the polls we do and, yeah, get more behind the scenes stuff and have a more say over what we do here on the channel. Yes, we're going to continue listening to City of Tears. Man, it's beautiful. Nostalgia. This is so beautiful when you have this harp melody and it's playing an ostinato. An ostinato in music is when you play this repeating pattern or phrase. It might be throughout the whole piece or just a section of a track, but you can hear the harp playing the same thing here. But then you have the cello playing a very soaring, beautiful melody on top of that, which makes the like harmony feel to change, and you get an evolution in the melodic material. Just beautiful. Yeah, it actually sounds like smaller creatures marching on. These rhythmic chunks, if you will. Shum, shum. Comparsos is actually amazing how both games complete each other. Yeah, I also feel that Hollow Knight is still well worth to play. What a huge map. I just saw that in like a video. I had to look up the new stuff, what's new for the update. Will there be a reaction to the soundtracks of Chapter 3 and 4 of Deltarune? Yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. But maybe next week. We'll see when they pop up. But just stay around. Make sure you subscribe to the channel and have that notification bell so you don't miss out when we launch the next chapter. The first Hollow Knight is a timeless game. Yeah, I definitely feel like the last update here also makes it feel more fluid and also more similar to how like the mechanics work in Silksong a little bit. And a smoother map. That's always nice. Yeah, make sure to join in on the Discord channel too. Warlock, thanks for reminding people about the Discord channel. City of Tears, for some, Coral Chambers. We tickle the zombie. Ali. Yeah, tickling in the air. Tickling the zombie. Thanks for joining in, Ali. Yeah, so a beautiful song. I can understand why people might compare this or have this as your like choral chambers for Hollow Knight. Choral Chambers, if you're just jumped on the show here, is at least my favorite track from the Silksong game. There's another track called Bylewater, which is also in par almost with Choral Chambers, but there are so many tracks and they are all good in their own way. Lace, for example, which has this beautiful 5/4 thing going on. But one thing that I do recognize here when listening to the Hollow Knight soundtrack, because we're going to speak about how Hollow Knight, how the soundtrack evolved from Hollow Knight into the Silksong game. Because Christopher Larkin obviously grew as a composer. Yeah, it's an absolute masterpiece, yeah, absolutely. Let's continue with the Dung Defender. Yeah, very royal sounding. Yeah, so to me this is like a blind reaction because I haven't reached this far into Hollow Knight, so it's definitely a blind reaction to where this exactly is played within the game. But it sounds very royal, so I just love the trumpets and the uplifting quality to this one. Yeah, so the word I was looking for is a modal interchange. That's when you like borrow notes. So say that you're playing in Ionian or you're playing a Dorian piece, which is like a major piece. So that's a major scale. And then you borrow something from, say you borrow a chord from the minor. Then you're doing modal interchange. That happens a lot in the Silksong soundtrack compared to Hollow Knight. At least that's the impression. And one of the things that I notice here that's different between the Hollow Knight soundtrack. We might bump into this in the soundtrack, but it's a lot more of modal interchange and this like borrowing of notes from other scales in Silksong. And that makes it more sounding more mature, I feel, as a composer. So that's at least my impression so far, personal impression. And it's so beautiful again, the layering here, it's just perfect. You have a section with a melody, with the trumpets or something, and then you add some other instruments on top of that. Maybe it's like xylophones or celeste or bellish sounds to get a little bit more like high frequencies. The ear candy, it's just lovely. Nice end to the track too. So that was Dung Defender. So next we have Crystal Peak. And my guess it's gonna be quite a lot of like high frequency, bellish sounds. I have no idea. Blind reaction again. Like guitar harmonics. And here we get the bells. But also lovely. Just love the build throughout this arrangement. Man, I'm so in love with this track. And this is typically how myself would also arrange a track, with like the guitars played in a little bit unusual manner and more like a percussive instrument almost. But yeah, I just love it with the harmonics in the introduction there. And indeed, it's a beautiful ambient piece. Crystal Hunters are on par with the Primal Aspids for the most annoying enemies. Isn't the bass? That sounds like acoustic guitar. Way too low to be a guitar. It can be a baritone guitar. There's different body sizes for acoustic guitars too. A baritone. It's E. I have no idea how my guitar here is tuned today. Dub, dub, Yeah, so you could just tune the guitar to be lower, like a D or C or something, and then you could play that pattern. So it's not impossible. It could have been definitely be an acoustic guitar. You can get like a similar sound. Yeah, we'll probably do a Celeste down the line. Yeah, so that one is the instant favorite, Crystal Peak from Hollow Knight's original soundtrack, Celeste. Yeah, would love to do that one. We'll see what happens down the line here. We have so many beautiful soundtracks to go through. Next we have Fungal Wastes. Now this is mysterious. Love the dragons. Man, the oboes and English horns and the horns in general sounds very like organic and real to me, and it adds a very nice sad flavor when we have these like muted horn sounds. Beautiful composition, and indeed, yeah, there's a droning E on top of the track. I'm just playing along a little bit here. Sorry, not sorry. Adam, welcome. How are we tonight? I love how this track uses dissonance. I feel whimsical and off-putting at the same time. Warlock. Yeah, it's a very mysteriously sounding track. Cute OST. Yeah, indeed. Love it. Love it so far. Citric, hi there. The pads. It's just like a sigh. It's just like a long sigh. It just blooms out and becomes so beautiful. I like to call it bloom when you have like a composition going on, and then you add this really lush pad, and that's when the track blooms. It's just so lovely. Indeed, we have that, and it almost sounds like an improvised. It sounds like an improvised melody, almost on top of that. I'm just improvising too here. Let's continue with the Fungal Waste, where the track blooms. I'm always sidetracked, sorry. Not sorry. Yeah, beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful Fungal Waste. Man, I'm just finding favorite after favorite here in the soundtrack. I've only heard like a couple of tracks from the beginning of this soundtrack prior to launching this stream. So it's a little bit like a blind reaction stream to me. We're excited for the Minecraft Volume Beta album reaction live stream. Yeah, we're gonna do that one, don't you worry. The Minecraft Volume 1 reaction I did just completely blew up. It's going extremely well. But as I mentioned, I don't earn a dime here on these reaction videos. So if you want to support these reaction streams and you want us to continue, make sure to consider joining in on the channel. There's a join button here below. And speaking of join, there's also sometimes like a hype button. There's a new feature on YouTube. If you ever see the hype button on any of my videos, please press that one. It doesn't cost you anything, but apparently it helps the algorithm to surface my videos. Did you notice how area themes from Hollow Knight are very memorable, unlike Silk Songs where they're very ambient in the background? Yeah, indeed, it's maybe a little bit more like melodic. But I do feel you can hear the like pad works, synthesizer pads a lot more in Hollow Knight. But I guess that's like the reason for not having the orchestra available at your disposal. Because obviously if you have the orchestra at your disposal, you're going to write for that and you're going to focus on that. Because there's so much flavor and it does add another layer of professionalism and yeah, so many lovely tracks in Silksong, but many bangers here in Hollow Knight. And I guess in the end they are going to be just magical soundtracks in my own book of soundtracks. Just love them so much so far. Let's go to the next track, Decisive Battle. I guess we're heading for a boss theme. What do you think? Dabadoo? Let me know in the chat. That's really a punch in the face, this rhythmic pulsation. And as you can hear, you can do so much with just rhythm and planning if you're composing. Just planning the rhythm and how you will add a certain like rhythmical accents. It can do so much, and you can do it so much even with like a 6/8 or another type of time signature if you just plan your accents differently. Oh, thank you, Lasers. we have our first super chat. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Yeah, so this is also requested. This soundtrack reaction is also requested by the Lasers. So thank him for recommending us to do this Hollow Knight reaction show. He's also a member on the channel, and you can also join. Just join. Do you hear it? Anyone heard it? You know what I'm speaking about here? Bum, bum. Dum, 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 dum. You know what I'm speaking about? The origin of that rhythm and melody. Which show? Which film? Come on, you guys. You know this one. I'm gonna play it again. Let's see it. Anyone? Yeah, Clake! You won an orange. Mission Impossible. Indeed. James Bond. Nah, it's a Mission Impossible. But it inherits, obviously, flavor from the James Bond. Next up, we're gonna listen to Soul Sanctum. Mission Impossible. Indeed. Soul Sanctum. For you. Inception. Inception, anyone? Interstellar indeed. Yeah, so again, another track that really adventures to places. And that's so lovely about game music, when you have themes evolving and moving to different places and spaces. now it blooms out into some kind of boss theme, battle theme. I saw some question there if that track should have been split into 2 tracks. I have no idea. I guess that's up to the eye of the beholder. And currently I am the eye of the beholder from my point of view here. And you all here in the chitty chat, you are all the eye of the beholder from your place. So you decide what works and what you like and what you don't like about music. That's the beautiful thing about music. Hans Zimmer loves his arpeggios. Yeah, he does indeed. But many composers love the arpeggios. I mean, so many has become influenced by his soundtracks and his way of composing and working. Soul Sanctum, yeah, it does sound royal. And maybe after this one, it's the perfect time to play and annoy my brother, Elrinth, if he's in the chat. You there, Elrinth? You in the chat today? And play Vampire Killer from Castlevania. I always annoy him in some of the streams here by playing Vampire Killer, but I play it with a twist because it's like 30 years since I heard it the last time, so I'm not playing it exactly like the original, but he gets so annoyed because I'm playing it a little bit different. I think it's so funny. Let's continue with Soul Sanctum. Yeah, so again, leave a like here on the video and let's continue with Soul Sanctum. But again, it's a little bit, sounds inspired a bit by like Interstellar or Hans Zimmer organ stuff. Thanks for joining in again, guys. Man, the track really changes here, and yeah, someone asked earlier maybe if this track should have been split between like the first part, call it phase 1, and then the second, which is more of like a boss battle theme. But like I told in the previous stream, I don't know if you heard it, but I was talking about it's in the eye of the beholder, or rather in the ears of the listener. And for my own personal listening, I have no problem with it being in the same track. Maybe if you want to listen to that track just for like background music, maybe it would have been great to have it separate in a separate song. Just for the listening experience, just if you want to hear that chill organ, that sad chill organ. Male choir are so powerful. Yeah, hope I'm not distorting, because I have a lot of compression going on here on the voice. When you just want to have fun. sorry. Yeah, the cat was walking on my tablet. I blame that. Yeah, so it adds a lot of anticipation when he does these builds in the soundtrack. Christopher Larkin was speaking about the builds, and then he suddenly surprises us with his really rapid melodies after the climax. Just chef's kiss. Yeah, what a climax. And there's really some simple things that you can do if any of you play piano or compose music or anything. There's a really simple thing you can do if you want to create the climax of just a chord. Just gotta show you something funnier. So say we're playing something in D minor. Here's a super simple thing you can do to build momentum and build anticipation and towards like a climax. Just using that same, it's a triad chord, a D minor chord, D, F, and see there? Super simple. You just invert the chord upwards. So first we play it in root position. Maybe we can just do like this. Then first inversion. Second inversion, and continue upwards. You can do the same thing downwards if you want to get it to like sound like a closure of some sorts. It's often used in compositions. Interesting thing for those of you that compose music or want to compose music. So that was the end of Soul Sanctum. And indeed it begins with this interstellar kind of organ thing. And then ends in this really cool, grand battle theme. Yeah, indeed, the vibes of grandeur and evil. The sound of anvil. Anyone seen the movie about Anvil? It's hilarious. It's gonna be jam-packed. And then it's like 4 people in the crowd. It's a metal band that's going to do a gig. And they're asking their manager if it's going to be a big gig. It's going to be jam-packed. And then where they're playing the gig, it's like 4 people. I think it's the chef in the audience or something. The chef of the gig place. Okay, so let's continue Resting Grounds. From Hollow Knight. Original soundtrack. Not even close. Yeah, what a beautiful soaring theme. A lot of sadness in this melody. Just love it. You're using this for your Dungeons and Dragons adventures. Yeah, can totally understand why. It's very ambient and moody. Sad. Yeah, you don't want to skip any of these pieces, especially since this is a partly blind reaction. I've only heard a fraction of the tracks in the soundtrack. But what a beautiful track this was, Resting Grounds. Love those tremolo strings when you have this really rapidly playing. Soaring strings. It's really the sound of magic. So next in line after Resting Grounds, we're gonna listen to another Hollow Knight soundtrack called Queen's Gardens. Because it's peak content, so make sure to stick around. We are listening into Hollow Knight original soundtrack. Queen's Gardens. Yeah. That little bell detail at the end of the phrases. It's chef's kiss indeed. And indeed, this rock, indeed it does remind a little bit of the Shellwood track from Silksong. One of the late game areas with unbelievable beautiful music. Indeed, Kobarsos, you're so right. Beautiful. Yeah, the cat's hugging my guitar down here. We have Siggy. What a mysterious song. He's losing a lot of hair. I think it's a winter thing. Also a little somber because of history and the Queen. Yeah, love the kitties. Yeah, let me know the names of your cats here in the chat if you're new and just joined here on the reaction show. Cat makes chat explode. Oh, love the gorgeous cat. Siggy. Yeah, his name is Sigge. Sigurd. But there's hair everywhere when he's been around. It's just... So if you're allergic, I don't think he's a good cat to have around. Next we have the White Lady of Hollow Knight's original soundtrack. Let's take it. Ah, okay. It does sound very different, and indeed with the title like The White Lady, it does remind me of Greece, in the islands of Greece, Socrates, Athens, Crete. Love Crete, been there many times. Lovely place. So that was The White Lady. Next we are going directly into Broken Vessel, the next track. Man, that cello in the intro there, what a ballsy sound, a really big, huge sound. And if you follow my channel here, you do love, I can't get enough of a good cello. There's so much like wood quality and yeah, I don't know what it is about the sound, but it always sounds so beautiful. And it can be big and ballsy like this, really raspy and malicious, ominous sounding. To more tragic and sad sounding. This one has so much drama and tragedy. Spoiler reasons. Yeah, we're gonna continue. It almost sounds like something from Bloodborne, these sounds, compared to like the smooth and soft and magical and mystical sound that's like overall for Hollow Knight and Silksong. This really lush atmosphere. This is really ominous. Hello, Hallownest theme. Next we're gonna go for Kingdom's Edge. Sounds like we're back into the sadness and loneliness of the overall theme. To me, this sounds a little bit like Midnight Sonata. It has that overall flavor. Maybe it's the arpeggio? Let me know what you think. Chat. So that was Kingdom's Edge from Hollow Knight OST. Zedrom feels like an abandoned place far away from civilization. Indeed. It's a beautiful track. Next we are heading into a track called Nosk. Blind Reaction. Let's go. Again, rhythm is so super important, and with all these punctuations and slams on the cello and cello basses, it really sounds sinister. Definitely the prequel to Sister Splinter, yeah, indeed. And what a coincidence there with the name, or the suggestion here for how it sounds. Sinister Sister Splinter. The sinister Sister Splinters. Indeed. But I just love that run in the beginning, or not run, but the phrase. What a cool ostinado. Yeah, the interplay here, or the play with rhythm here is so super important to make it sound even more like sinister and put you off, so to speak. Because when you get these kind of abrupt kind of trials, it really breaks apart the rhythm from just the structure. It's a really nice technique. Yeah, it doesn't matter if it's samples. I mean, it works perfectly in these type of battle themes. It doesn't matter if it's samples or if it's... well, of course, real instruments would have been nice to layer on top of this, which is a typical thing that like Hans Zimmer does all the time. Just to get that extra raspiness and extra transients to cello lines and stuff like that. And especially if it's like a battle track like this. Yeah, we have a cat in the house. I guess he's hungry again, because he's just fooling around here, hugging the guitar at my side. So that's what was Nosk from Hollow Knight's original soundtrack. So we're gonna head into the next track, Dream. Siggy! Now this instantly reminds me of Silk Song, the first note there. Meow meow. Anyone the shrine theme of Dark Souls 3? Fire Shrine. What do you think? I get instant Dark Souls vibes from that lonely, suspenseful cello. Just because we have all these long pauses between the melodic lines and that drone in the background, that's exactly what we have in Dark Souls 3. I think it's called the Fire Shrine. The shrine, anyway, where you upgrade and level up and stuff. Went and got my headphones. It's certainly it's different than not wearing. Yeah, you get a lot more from the quality from the soundtracks when listening on headphones. I'm using these really, really high quality audio headphones. It's called the model is called S5X version 1.2 or something, 1.1, whatever. But it's a really expensive headphones, but exquisite quality, especially for the listening, mixing, mastering. I use them when I record to it, just about everything. So that was Dream from Hollow Knight, original soundtrack. We're gonna head to the next track, Dream Battle. I just love the pads in the background to this track. They add so much flavor to the track. While we have this like repeating cello bass line, but it adds so much the pad we have there. And I still feel, although it's like a battle track, it really feels, it has this like positive flavor at least. So it sounds very like pepping, momentum and pep talk. Yeah, some great momentum in that track. Dream Battle from Hollow Knight, original soundtrack. Markov is the only reason why I can't beat P5 yet. I stopped on P4. I got some messages for P5. Oh yeah, finally White Palace. Yeah, we're gonna continue to the next one. White Palace from Hollow Knight, original soundtrack. Leave a like on the video. Major to minor. What a beautiful song so far. Just love the melody in this track. This song plays during the hardest parkour. What a nightmare. One thing cover artists always get wrong about this track is the tempo. It keeps slowing down, pacing up all the time in this track, and that's the charm of it. Yeah, that's the love when you have a little bit of rubato, or not rubato, but that you have these slowdowns at the end of the phrases, and then that you get up to pace. It adds a lot of realism, especially to a piece where you only work with samples. Again, he's introducing the instrument so beautifully throughout the piece, and I feel it's a very well-balanced mixture of instruments too, when he replaces instrument or introduces new instruments in the music. It's just chef's kiss again, very beautiful. Love the majestic royal vibes in this piece, Kobarsos. This song helps me figure out the game story. I cried for an hour. Felix, great for learning this piece on the piano. It's always lovely to learn game music pieces, and although you may not play exactly like the original composition, I do it all the time. I'm just playing by ear, so I might play wrong sometimes, but and leave out notes when I play Vampire Hunter from Castlevania. But it's all fun. Music should be fun. We're doing music because we feel good about it. It's not only for sharing. It's you make music for yourself. You play music to feel good, and it resonates with you. That's the beauty of music. Although we have AI these days that can compose beautiful themes and whatnot, we're still gonna make music because we, as humans, feel so good about it. Because we vibrate with the music, with the melodies. And it's a very interesting sound combination here, where we have the harp, which is very, very high up the frequency range, and the cello, which is very, very low in the low range. So you have a very wide span across these two different instruments. And in the middle, you have this string pad. But it's so gorgeous to leave out things in a composition like this, or have a very broad spread between your instruments. And then you can have, of course, have sections where you make all the things glue together. But it sounds so beautiful when you have so good separation between the instruments. What a beautiful theme, White Palace. Indeed, chat away about P4, P5, iconic soundtrack incoming, Sealed Vessel. Let's go! Tremolo strings again here, building up. I really don't know where to start with this track, but it's just a beautiful composition. A lot of counterpoints here where we have voices moving downwards, melodic voices moving downwards in pitch, and other moving upwards, and the cello just sounding perfect. And again, blasting off the track like that with a lot of the instruments playing the same melodic phrase, but in different octaves, and it just sounds so epic and full with a whole orchestra like that. Because we haven't had a lot of that previously in the soundtrack. So indeed, sounds like a banger. I would never have picked that from the title, Sealed Vessel. I might even have skipped that track just for the title if I didn't know anything about this soundtrack. But man, banger indeed. It's all right. GoldenEye, that's definitely James Bond, right there. Do you agree with me, James Bond? That's very choral sounding when you do these type of things. It just sounds so choral and royal and tragic to some extent. It does sound like a very, very tragic opera, this track. Just love it. Anyone know if they're gonna record this, the soundtrack with real orchestra? Or if maybe they've already done that? I guess there's plenty of orchestras out there in Europe and wherever in the world has been performing tracks from Hollow Knight. Am I right? Let me know, chat. Sealed Vessel, Hollow Knight original soundtrack. Yeah, you don't want to pause that kind of melodic development and really emotional development. What a tragic ending. Yeah, so I can't wait to live these pieces within the game. So what do you say? Should we jump on and play some original Hollow Knight here after this reaction stream? What do you think? Let me know here in the chat. Totally moved by that one. My voice starting to break up even. The Pale King motif overlaid on the Hollow Knight motif on piano. Chef's kiss indeed, yeah. Yeah, the master of leitmotifs, indeed. Christopher Larkin, yeah, what a composer. Lovely theme. We're gonna continue with the Radiance. Let's go. They jump to Hollow Knight. Weird. Radiance. Damn, it's really over the top forte fortissimo, this piece. It's really like the highest dynamics of everything. Just love it. Where we have all these soft tracks going on and then we get this really majestic mega opera, the opus. Man, with all these organs, does sound like Castlevania. Speaking of Castlevania, any one of you saw the Netflix series? The cartoony Castlevania series? Highly advise you to check it out. There's a really cool boss fight in that one. And also a very eerie soundtrack. Ba-bam, Radiance. Yeah, indeed, some of the episode might have been, out of it. But I can't recall if it was season 2 that has that really, really epic boss fight. It's like super insane. It's like something from the God of War games. Please, White Defender. Oh, we already did that one. Next, we're going to Hollow Knight. The Hollow One. The Trashen One. comes to suspense. It always gives a sense of suspense when you have these rapid tremolo strings. Yeah, it's the menu boss of Hollow Knight. So you prefer this one to the main theme of Silksong, Swagging Doge. I guess if they had choral chambers in the menu, it would have been the massive, most explosive menu boss ever. It's the menu boss. You would never press start. Oh, the suspense in that note. I think this is a nice menu theme, I feel, but I've grown so accustomed, I guess, to the Silksong menu theme. So I guess at the moment I feel that the Silksong is maybe a little bit better, but better. It's always a personal impression music, so we all feel whatever, but it's a really cool menu theme, especially these dissonant notes. And that tremolo string really adds suspense before heading out on a quest. Next there's a track called The Truth, Beauty, Hatred, Hollow Knight. From the Hidden Dreams. Right, so you can definitely hear a difference in depth when it comes to the orchestra. Now when we've listened to the whole Hollow Knight original soundtrack with mostly sampled instruments, and we get to this track. Just listen to the depth of all the instruments. Hey, here's an idea. Won't they go back and make a remaster? I know Hollow Knight is already perfect, but would they go back and make a remaster of Hollow Knight and just make the whole score with real instruments like Silksong? Wouldn't that be peak? What do you think? Yeah, you can really hear an increase in textures. It's like a totally different ballpark of textures here. It sure sounds like a Final Fantasy uplifting battle heroism, heroic. You had a lot of superlatives for the type of sound we hear in this track. Indeed, it's just gorgeous and beautiful. True hidden beauty. What a track! Truth, Beauty and Hatred from Hollow Knight Hidden Dreams. So this was added to Hollow Knight in an update. How long time did it take from the original game until they added this update? Is this for one of the first updates of Hollow Knight? I have no idea, so that's why I'm asking. So let me know here in the chat if you know the time span between the original release, so to speak, before they released this. Or is this like a super new edition? We're gonna head to the next one, White Defender. Hi there, Nico. You really arrived at the peak, indeed. What a beautiful track. Indeed, the real orchestra beats anything. I really love these tracks when you go on an adventure. I talk about this all the time. And this is one of those tracks where we sit on a boat and we go to these different places when it comes to the instrumentation, melodic ideas, and it's really an adventure. Just love that. Sorry for the mic. It sounds like the hero is in trouble, like suppressed heroism. It's a little bit like muted instruments, muted trumpets. Just before we're gonna head for the heroic parts, I guess. We'll see what happens. And the storm. What magical opera is that? The White Defender, Hollow Knight Hidden Dreams. Right, so it was only like 5 months after the original game was released that they made this fine update. So they made a few updates since the original release of Hollow Knight. And what did they add in this first update? Is it like extra enemies, extra bosses, extra storyline? Right, so next I see there's a long list of tracks from the Grim Troop. And I think we need to take those in a separate stream, because we have been banging along here to the original soundtrack and these extra tracks. And I'm thinking that we can jump over and play a little bit of Hollow Knight maybe. Yeah, I played a little bit prior to doing this live stream. I feel a lot more confident in playing Hollow Knight after playing into Act 2 of Silksong. It gives you a lot of confidence because you know the battle mechanics much more. Although the Hollow Knight in Hollow Knights here feels a little bit more rigid. It's still quite fluid, like gameplay, but a little bit more rigid compared to Hornet, the main character of Silksong. Indeed, Dargons. Nah, I just want to jump in and do a little bit of gameplay with Hollow Knight here tonight. Yeah, I think it's a good way to experience the music within the game too. As I mentioned, I've played a little bit into the game, but it's basically, this was mostly a blind reaction to most of the tracks, and maybe it's time to do a little bit of a summary here after, but I feel a lot of quality tracks in Hollow Knight. Just amazing soundtrack all throughout. Just a magical work from Christopher Larkin. And especially since it's sampled instrument work mostly. I guess there's some like real instruments mixed in there, like the guitar and some female vocals and stuff. Right, so again, leave a like here on the video and make sure to stick around. Hit that notification bell so you don't miss out when we launch these reaction streams. Haven't really decided yet what we're gonna do next week. We'll see if we do something tomorrow or if we do a gameplay tomorrow. We'll see what happens here on the show. On the show. And a big thanks to you all for joining in here tonight. Again, let's do a little bit of engagement boost. So post your favorite emojis in the chit chat. So let's end the stream with a little bit of This was Vampire Killer from Castlevania, but then I started improvising, so I was just playing from the heart. I was playing from the heart, but improvising a little bit around Vampire Killer from Castlevania. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Love you all. Yeah, I mean, these shows are for the music. We're here for the music. Music and games. So we need to play a little bit too, don't we? And with that, we end the show. Thanks for joining in. Appreciate all the nice comments. See you next time. Bye.